give them a width, okay? So if I want to give a polyline a width, let me show you how this looks. If I go ahead and start my polyline command and I click here, you'll notice that, you guys probably can't see this, but if I go ahead and I restore this down and make it a little bit bigger, I want you to be able to see the bottom line right here. I want you to be able to see that. Oh gosh, let me see here. Let me do this. I'm going to make life a little easier first of all. I'm going to change the background to white so you guys will have some, you guys will have this. And then we're going to do this. Okay. I'm going to close that. That should give you enough to draw with. Okay. So this right here, okay, so what we've got going on here. So if I wanted to draw one of these types of objects right here, I would use a polyline. So I'll start my polyline command, I'll click here, and then you'll notice I can change the width. So if I were to click right here, or right click my mouse, or hit my down arrow, I can get my width option. Any of those will work. Now, it asks me for a width. Now please notice it's going to ask for a starting width and an ending width. So I'm going to start with, in this case, I'm going to say, oh, let's just say 2 for 2 inches, and I'll hit enter. Now when I've got that, you've got a nice looking arrow that's going along here, okay? Now that's all well and good, except for what if I want to put an arrowhead on it? Well, there's a really kind of cool way to do this. Because AutoCAD allows you to control a starting width and an ending width, that's all an arrow is. An arrow is a wide point that tapers to nothing. That's all it is. So we tell it, oh, okay, well, since my line is 2 inches long, if I want to have an arrowhead, let's pick maybe 6 inches for a starting point. So I'll start my width option again, and I'll say 6, and I'll say an ending point is 0. And then when I do that, and I pull it over here, you get an arrowhead. So that is how you can make an arrowhead in CAD very easily, okay, just using a polyline. This is a very kosher way to do it. People still do it. There's also a lot of Lisp routines out there. There's a lot of ways to do it. But since you're sitting here in this class, I just showed you how to do it very quickly. Now, you're going to have to right-click and change your width and understand, you got to study it because it's going to ask you for a starting width and an ending width. If they're both the same, it's just going to be a solid line. But if you give it a starting width of one thing and an ending width of 0, you can make it arrow. Okay, that's how you do that. And once you've got one of them, you just copy it around. Okay, that's all you would do. So that's all I did for these right here. If you look at these right here, if I click on these, it'll tell you that, what are you? I go to properties, it tells me I am a polyline. All right? So that's what we want to do, is we want to make polylines for that right here. Other than that, you're going to see as well that in our layer properties here, if we take a look at our layer properties and see what's going on with these, I'm going to right-click and go to maximize all columns so I can read them. And now down here you got beams, you got columns, and so forth. You'll notice that footing is hidden, okay? Footing is hidden because it's a dashed line that's underneath the surface, so that's going to be like that. Beams are a center line, and so that's why they appear dashed. So this is what you got going on here, and this is how these look right here. Now right here, looks like in this side, they don't look so good, but in the layout, they look real good as far as that goes, because your line type scale for plotting is going to be slightly different than your line type scale on this side. If you want to see these, if you want to see the line types over here show up, if I go to LTSCALE, that's a variable you might want to take note of. LT scale. Line type scale allows you to put in a global line type scale that changes. So in this case, if I hit enter, right now it's 24. 24 is giving us a pretty big value. Let me try 1 and see what it does here. Okay, it kind of gives us that. Okay, it gives a little tiny one there. So if I go back to line type scale and type in, let's say, 0.1, like that, that's too small again. Let's try LT scale. And you just got to kind of dig around with this right here if you want to see it in this particular side of the drawing. Let's try 12. All right, looks like that. So that's kind of acceptable right there. Line type scale 12 looks good here. And over your layout, it's a little bit dense, but we're good to go. Okay, so your LT scale is something you might want to dink around with. I'm not sure if the template has it set. Well, I'm not sure where it has it set. But in any case, we're sitting right here. We're looking good. And I go to here. These right here. These are leaders right now. And these leaders are set up, and they should be working just fine with what you have. And I will let you guys kind of look at that. These arrows right here, I'm not going to make you guys make these like this. You can just use an arrow like this using a leader. So just go ahead and use a leader. You don't have to do these curly arrows unless you want to. And to do those curly arrows, essentially, you can just do a polyline, turn it into a spline, and then go ahead and put an arrowhead. That's kind of a lot of work. So I'm not looking for that. You can just go ahead and make an arrowhead like one of these, like either leader or one of the sharp ones. So one of the standard straight ones. You don't have to do a curly one, so don't worry about that. That's just something I did to put some style in there, but don't want you to waste time on it necessarily. Now this you see right here is a center line that's overhead, and that's basically, you've got a beam pocket right here for the beam, and that beam actually runs across the basement. And this is the way construction typically goes. You're going to have a couple of supporting structures. In this case, you got a beam running in this direction, you got a beam running in this direction, and it kind of jogs. So you've got that throughout this particular structure. So it's pretty, everything should be set up, but you may have some questions that are going on here. But that is what is due for today, the basement foundation. And when you guys do save it, you can use this as we talked about. Let me just go ahead and try this and see how this works. I'm going to export this as a GWF, and let me see if this gives me the, okay, I want to go here and make it a GWF. Let me see what I can do here. Let me see if I look at these options. Let's overwrite, block information, GWF, current, plot step. Let's go ahead and do it this way. So we got two of those right now. Let's go ahead and use that. I don't see any setting right now for the, I don't see any setting for the line type. So we'll just go ahead and hit save, and we'll save it. And where did it save it? I'm not sure. Let's try that again. Export it. That GWF. Where's it going to export it to? Oh, it went to the desktop, so we're good to go. So if I go back here, let's see what it looks like in the GWF in the design review. So if I go to here and I open this up, it's going to open up in design review and it looks like this. And it gave me those for Schlagner thick lines, so that's not cool. So, but that's okay. I'll fix that. But you see these real thick lines. That's because it's using a line type. It's basically printing with line type. So if I go back to AutoCAD, I'll show you how you resolve that in real life. What we would do is we would go and we would go to layout 1, which looks like this, and we right click and go to plot. And to plot, we just choose the GWF 6 ePlot PC3. This is the only one you're ever going to want to use. There's only one on here you care about, and that's the GWF 6 ePlot. And then once you got that, we would change this to get rid of the plot object line type. See that right there? You turn that off. If you don't see this, you hit this arrow so you can see it. You go ahead and turn that off. And then we hit preview, make sure it looks okay. If it looks good, looks like we got lines and everything, we're good. I hit plot, and we hit save. And that's really the way I prefer that you save your GWFs, because the other way is not really good. What's that?
I don't think I plotted.
Don't worry about it. I'm not worried about it. It's if you didn't plot it, I didn't tell you to, so now I am telling you. And so, yeah, question?
We would save it to our S drive though?
Yeah, just save it to your S drive, and then that's what you upload. Okay, so here, now look how nice these line weights are, okay? Nice and pretty, nice and thin. Okay, so that's what you want to do. You want to go ahead and plot it with the GWF 6 ePlot. I know I threw a lot at you there, but you can do it. If you have any questions, just ask me. But I prefer you do it that way. Export works, but it gives you the big, fat, thick, ugly lines, but I prefer to have these nice, thin, elegant lines. The reason why is I want to be able to measure it, if I need to. So if I want to go here and I want to say, oh, let's look at this drawing. And so I'll go to my markup and measure. I'll go to the length here, and I'll say, okay, I want to know what the length is from here to here. And it tells me 42 feet, 6 inches, roughly. And it doesn't actually quite snap to it. I'm not really sure why. And then you can put your notes in like we saw before. But this is, a very great environment, a great workflow. So anyway, that is kind of an intro to some of the things that a foundation plan will allow you to do. So that's what we want to do. So as we're working